When I got offered the job, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this exec role, to be totally honest. And when I called Richard about that, he was like, of course you're ready. What do you mean? And I actually think women in particular fall into this trap, and they are like, oh, well, I need to go build up some more knowledge before I could go for that opportunity. I have a propensity for taking action now to then learn from that. Don't wait for somebody else to believe in you. Believe in yourself and go for it. No. If you're not going to believe in yourself, why will anybody else? Rather than asking permission for everything, just say what you think we should do.
Initiative.
With conviction.
Yeah.
And just get it done.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of On the Pulse, a podcast where we talk to senior industry leaders in the digital technology space. My name is Tony Mulcock. I'm the co-founder of Pulse Group, and today we're joined by Brigitte West. Brigitte is a senior product leader operating at the forefront of health tech, where she's responsible for building and scaling high-performing product, design and engineering teams. She's played a key role in shaping products that operate in complex, regulated environments, balancing innovation, user needs and real-world impact. What makes Brigitte particularly interesting is her experience navigating leadership at scale, from building international teams to operating at executive level in fast-growing businesses. Her background, combining deep experience in product development, research and policy understanding, allows her to create and scale health tech products that are both evidence-based and genuinely user-centered. Brigitte, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here.
Thanks so much, Tony. It's great to be here.
So exciting. So I suppose a little bit of background first before we sort of go into this. I was very fortunate through a mutual contact of ours who we know and love very well, very much, to get introduced. I think it was about 4 years ago.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah.
And you know, was very lucky to have that introduction, and we've become good friends since then.
Yeah.
In the industry, we share the passion for our industry and many other things outside of that. We get together and we catch up and we like literally jibber jabber and talk about everything and anything. This is a little bit different. It's probably a bit out of our comfort zone for a number of reasons. Probably one of them being it's a little bit more structured, and we've got things we want to get out.
Got an agenda.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But I'm sure it's going to absolutely flow. And I think there's a number of things that we can really share, and hopefully a lot of people can get out of this pod. So yeah, I'm no doubt, right? So let's start right with your journey. And it has been an amazing journey. For, if you don't mind me saying, someone who is still fairly young, right, to be at leadership level in our industry. It's been amazing. I'm a bit biased because of our relationship, but am I? Because I just say it as it is, right? And but let's talk about that journey. Talk to us about, you know, how it started, where it was like, you know, what made you, you know, get into this, because you could have chosen anything. Yeah. Right. But you chose products in the digital technology space. Why?
Well, I think it all started with what I chose to study at university, not directly, but indirectly. So I studied medical sciences at university, initially wanted to be a doctor, didn't get into med school, so went to study science. And after uni, found myself setting up a beauty tech company. Actually didn't mean to set up a tech company. It was very much about the evidence base behind beauty products. I've always been fascinated by scientific research, making evidence more accessible. And I found myself running that company, but it wasn't quite the right fit. Beauty tech.
That's scary, right?
Well, it's scary, but I learned heaps. It was a brilliant opportunity to meet lots of people and learn lots of things. I didn't know anything about business when I set up that company, and it's one of those things that I look back on and I think, God, I'd run it so differently today. I think, maybe the lessons that I've learned over the years, though, like if they weren't grounded in all of that early failing.
So having your own company, I mean, that is scary, right?
Yeah.
But surely, or actually, I'll put it another way. Is it fair to say that it's been really fundamental to putting you where you are today? The foundations that it gave you.
Yeah, because as the founder, you get exposed to all different aspects of business.
Tell me
so,
yeah.
You know this firsthand.
15 months in or 18 months in, whatever it is.
Everything from like doing the company accounts to getting user feedback to designing the product. It's my first time like ever working with engineers, designers. And I failed heaps, and I learned really about how to build good product by building a company that didn't work.
Yeah.
And from there, I actually ended up being really fortunate of meeting a woman called Hina Zaman, who founded a women's telehealth company, one of the first like telehealth companies in that space. And this was like really early in my career. So it's way before, now everybody's consulting with GPs, healthcare professionals online, but it was way before that. It was when people were like, God, I wouldn't ever imagine doing that over a video call.
It's got to be in person.
Yeah. And so I found myself then working on in a problem space that I was really passionate about. Like the reason I'd gone into medical science is because I cared a lot about healthcare and advancing healthcare. And so I found that was the place where I learned I could marry the domain of healthcare with actually the pace and how tech companies run. That was then when I realized, health tech is my bag.
Yeah.
But in terms of like actually thinking, right, I'm going to be a product manager or I'm going to go into product leadership, I never thought that at that stage. I just found myself running the products team, like the product engineering design team, and loving it. And that was a really early stage startup. We were based out of the Google co-working spaces, like not far from here in Old Street.
Old Street,
and someone there who'd spent a heap of time in like Silicon Valley was like, oh, what you do is you're a product manager. And I like went away, Googled what a product manager was, and I was like, cool, I'll be a product manager.
Like a lot of people have got into product, right? What's this? Like,
I didn't like do the linear path of junior PM to PM and go through that process. So it was basically I was just guided by my curiosity, and I happened to go into company. I've been very driven in my career around the types of problems that I want to solve, and product is the place in the company where you're often well positioned to actually really solve those problems. So over the years, I've worked on lots of different health tech products across business models, direct to consumer, B2B, B2B2C. I've worked across different business models, but also different areas of healthcare.
Yeah.
So I've always just been like, oh, I'd really like to go and explore that new space, and have found roles that enable me to do that. And in terms of the leap from kind of like product manager, so leading like one or a few product teams, to actually product leadership roles, executive roles, I think that happened quite naturally. I was given the opportunity to kind of keep expanding my remit, leading more teams. And then when I was at Newman, which is the role before Dr. Care Anywhere, there was a change in leadership, which gave me an opportunity to step up and actually play more of a role as leading the team there. And it made me realize that that's what I really wanted to do. Work on the vision, the strategy for the whole product org, or like for the company. I found that really exciting, and that's what I've done ever since. But I'd say I've always been guided by my curiosity rather than job title. It's always been about like, what's the remit of this role? What type of problems will I be solving? Like, what's the product actually doing? And because I'm so healthcare specific, that's often what healthcare problem is this solving, and what's the impact? Like, that's the reason I get out of bed in the morning, is shipping product that genuinely has an impact on the world.
Makes a difference.
And a lot of you said in my bio around like policy and research, a lot of when I've added extra strings to my bow, so to speak, has been to be able to do that better, to be able to solve problems better. So understanding how you get the evidence base you need to scale a product, or how you get the right policy in place to scale a product, is all about solving problems well and having an impact. And that's what's always driven me. It's like, how do I lead teams of people to get behind the same mission, have the same vision, the same image in their head of where we're heading, and then do the day-to-day problem-solving, decision-making that gets us there.
Okay. On that, just going back a bit. Really curious. I'm sure people listening to this would be as well. You could have, you were kind of almost sort of fell into like product within health tech, right? Within medicine, within just health tech overall. Essentially, someone that is, smart, picks things up quickly, has got a natural curiosity. and he's got that kind of mindset of making products better for consumers.
Yeah.
Is a good recipe for someone to pursue a vocation as a product manager, right?
Yeah.
Broadly speaking, there'll be some people look at it and go, no, you need, but you could have chosen, the point I'm leading to is you could have chosen any domain, any particular vertical within product management, within digital technology, but you chose health tech. Mm-hmm. Was that purely driven by everything that you've just said and your background, or was it just actually, it's just the thing that you, because you were so passionate about it, there was nothing else that you feel could sort of to almost like tempt you away from that?
Yeah.
Like e-com retail or, sort of pure play, within sort of mobile pure play technology or ad tech, or is it just, I have to do that? But you mentioned it, like make a difference, but was it that and that alone?
Yeah, I think so. I think I can see all the problems in healthcare. And like, because people say to me like, will you always work in health tech? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe not.
How long has it been? Sure, yeah.
But for now, I can see plenty of problems to go after. And that is what drives me, is solving really hard healthcare problems. And in terms of like how I ended up in product, I kind of saw it as like the place where you got to work with all of these amazing disciplines. So I work with engineers, clinicians, designers, and many other like people. And as a PM, you get exposure to all of these different ways of thinking, approaching problem solving. And like one of the things that I love about what I think are really good product people is when you've got like a real diverse set of disciplines and people round a table solving problems. Yeah. And like that's where I went into it. And then healthcare, I think just like it's like there's the moments in my career that are the real highlights are when I have got a piece of user feedback or I'm looking at impact metrics and something has genuinely improved the healthcare for an individual, a group of individuals. Like at Doctor, our product is used by millions of patients. So when we ship something and it improves it improves the accessibility of patients being able to get an appointment, or it makes it way easier and less stressful for them to manage their care. Like when you see that and you see the feedback coming in from patients or healthcare teams as well, like making their lives easier and allowing them to do the job that they signed up to do when they went into university to become a doctor or a nurse, but now are bogged down in paperwork. And when we automate some of that stuff away and get them more face to face, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. It's the outcomes we create with the technology rather than the technology itself. So it's the problems that we solve, the outcomes that we create, which is why I went into it. And that's what drives me. Like the thing that I love doing most week to week at Doctor is looking at like our impact dashboard, like what are the problems that we've solved and what are the impact of solving those problems. And that like really drives and motivates not just me but most of our team as well.
Nice. I love that. And I think that anyone that knows product, people know that it's got to be, products enable so many things and they change lives, and this is a prime example, but it's got to be, when I engage people about a new opportunity and I approach them, whether they're looking or not, it's got to be a product that they makes them sort of stop and look, and makes their ears prick up, so to speak. And otherwise it's like being in a race and it's like a full start. It's just a non-starter, because if you're not excited and passionate about the product, for whatever reason that may be, then there's just no point, right? Because that's exactly that. It's what gets you out of bed in the morning. And I think with health tech, it's a really interesting thing because I have strong opinions, and there's probably, I don't know, but there's probably very, very few people that aren't interested in their health, right? So, there's lots of other products out there, which I won't sort of detail because people will probably be a bit like, oh, hang on a minute, you singled that out. But that aren't of interest to people for various different reasons. But healthcare and health tech is something that is in the forefront of our minds all the time. Certainly, I don't know, but I feel this, but as I've got older, as I'm getting older, you become more aware of your mortality. And so you're very conscious about certain things that you think about and you talk about, and within friendship groups, within families, day to day. And the kind of things that you're doing and the products you're involved with every day are making a huge difference. So I can understand how it's like, it's all that analogy of like, I don't just kind of, just amble out of bed. I'm kind of, I'm up because I love what I do.
Totally. And that's what we look for also when we're hiring as well, is that, because healthcare is also hard, right? Like the go-to-market can be really complicated depending on your business model and who you're selling to and who your users are. But you have to have that motivator, that drive to get like being a PM is also hard, right? Like it's a hard job. And then doing that within the healthcare domain, it can be a really hard domain. So you have to be motivated. So it's something that I'll test for in interviews. Like, why are you interviewing with us? Like, I love hiring people from non-healthcare domains because I think,
interesting.
Usually I look at the team. Exactly. But also to give like fresh perspectives as well. So if someone's spent heaps of time in like e-commerce, they can bring lots of learning into our team. Like, obviously you have to balance the team,
of course,
and we do need like domain expertise in there as well. But we're really thoughtful about who's in our product teams,
balance,
and it's totally about balance. And I think like we can learn so much from people that have never worked in the domain. Like often I'll have conversations with product teams where they'll be like, oh, I'm not sure this is possible, it's too risky. And what somebody from a non-regulated space comes in with is a bit of a naivety around like the art of the possible. You have to pair them up with the right people that'll evaluate the risk, right? But that's how you build good product. I'm really passionate about that. But that's why it's really important for those people that haven't ever worked in healthcare before to really ask them like, what motivates you, what drives you, why this role. But we do find quite a few people, I can think of like people we've hired recently who have worked in an industry like, say, I don't know, like gaming or gambling, and they're like, I just want to do something more meaningful.
Do you tend to drive, so with those different domains, would you tend to look at people that are from regulated environments?
It depends on the role.
Right.
It depends on the role
so
and what part of the product.
No. It can be varying domains, but it has to be regulated. But it depends more on the role.
It totally depends on the role.
Right,
so some roles, so for example, we've got one product team that's really focused on our clinical experience, our experience for clinicians. And that having somebody with the expertise of how to navigate regulatory hurdles and how to make sure that everything we're doing is clinically safe and effective, like that's really valuable experience. But we've got other product teams where the domain expertise is less relevant. I mean, with anybody working in our product team, we expect over time for them to develop like a good understanding of our market, our users, the domain that we're operating in. But like, we don't hire necessarily for that knowledge. I feel like that's quite an easy thing to teach. A lot of the time we're hiring for whatever the person is bringing to the table for a particular role, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It really does. And it kind of makes me think about a scenario with a senior product director that I know very well. And I think we both know actually, but basically so this is interesting, and to your point, because she comes from outside of health tech. She's now in the health sector, but basically she was very much about, she was in this kind of zone of like, monetize, products, monetize, drive revenue, very commercial, right? And something happened in her life where she, very sadly lost her mum. And she was in this mindset of like, I've enjoyed what I've done up until now, and I've loved it, and it's been great, and I've learned a lot, and it's got me to where I have. But I want to sort of change that mindset, and I now want to be able to do something that actually really makes a difference and gives something back. And she was really determined to get into health tech in a product leadership role. And that was driven by what happened to her in her life, and losing her mum. But she then, and she actually, by the time, very difficult with, she needed a job, right? But she was being really selective and had stuck to her guns, which I respected her for massively. She's now a product director in the NHS.
Oh, cool.
Right? And it's really, her life is just completely changed in terms of, making a difference to people in a different way. and that's what I always, whenever we catch up and you give me an update of where you're at with stuff, that's always what shines through with you, and that's why, I wanted to invite you on here to talk about it so people can hear about it. And because I think it's inspirational. It really is.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think, it's about the journey, but it's also about, it doesn't just happen, right?
No.
It doesn't just happen. It's what you make it. And what I like, and what's probably a bit not unique, but it's quite interesting about what you've done, is you've decided from a very early stage that you've kind of studied in that sort of medicine in that health, and the whole health tech bubble and medicine, and you've wanted to carry on, and you've just carried on and stuck to that because you love it. But obviously there's a lot that's happened in between.
Yeah.
What was that kind of realization point where you thought, yes, product, you got into it, and you kind of, maybe you fell into, you said you fell into it, but what was that realization point where you thought, yes, I love the subject matter, but actually, in terms of product, I can really, and I want to, that ambition is absolutely there, that natural drive is there, but it's product for me, and I want to, and I want to get to the position where you find yourself now and beyond. Where was that?
Yeah.
Where was that sort of turning point, do you think?
I think it was probably when I shipped like the first version of an app, like when I could actually download something that we'd taken from ideation, like early concept, to be able to be like, oh my gosh, it's a real thing in the hands of like end users, and they're actually using it, and it's actually solving their problem. We one of the first products that I built was a breastfeeding Q&A product, and I could actually, when you asked me that question, I was trying to picture it, and that's what I was picturing. I was picturing that product when I was like, oh my god, it was a really simple product. It was like simple Q&A type product, with like, that allowed a new mum or expectant mum to chat to healthcare professionals on demand, which at the time was like unheard of. You'd have to book an appointment, or it was really hard to get access to good breastfeeding advice. And so I remember being like, oh my gosh, technology is the tool for improving accessibility of like these services, like it works for this demographic, this makes sense. And I've always worked on problems where I don't think all healthcare problems are to be solved with technology. So I've worked on problems where I can see, actually we could build something that solves that problem or makes it easy. So like, a lot of our time at Doctor at the minute is like, how do we make the system, the NHS, work more effectively, more efficiently? How do we take out a lot of the waste in the system? That is brilliant for a brilliant use case for technology, for automation. And that's the reason I joined Doctor, because up to then I'd kind of been doing more patient-facing type products, and now I do a lot of kind of operational, patient and clinical products. So it's like a really good mix. But I think that's the reason product, though, like it's shipping something and it having an impact. Like it's just so exciting. I really miss designing something and seeing, like, not that I ever did like design, but like going from like prototyping something or being in a workshop thinking about, or like even going from like strategy, right, this is a problem that we're going to solve, and then taking that right through and then going and speaking to users and watching them use the product. Like, it gives me so much joy. Like, even now though, when I go visit a hospital and I see people using Doctor or mates, like Doctors use, I think about 50% of hospital appointments are supported by Doctor now.
Really? Wow.
In NHS hospital appointments. Yeah, amazing. So I get a lot of screenshots from mates, family, where they've got, like, they're using the product. Because a lot of people haven't heard of Doctor, but might have used it if them or a loved one are in secondary care. They're not conscious. But like friends that are doctors in London will send me pictures of like they're like them like actually sort of, like
with the logo screenshot lol.
Exactly. And that drives me, because I'm like, oh my god, it's actually like impacting people's lives and the people that I know, and like friends that are using our products to get better care. That means a lot to me, like, you know.
I love that. Okay, Makes complete sense. I'm sure it
Yeah.
does to anyone sort of listening, watching this. I want to talk about women in technology.
Yeah.
And I think I know that we're both of the opinion. I'm sure a lot of people are of the opinion that there's not enough women in technology. And to see someone, to see that particularly the product space, the more and more like getting a more of a gender balance is obviously, something that we all want, right? And we're all kind of striving for. From our world, we do a lot of stuff like, very, very neutralized sort of CVs, to sort of trying to really kind of work on that gender balance, and we anonymize CVs and things like that sometimes, actually more and more so now, when we're submitting CVs and shortlists for interviews, etc., and for review. You're a person that, you're a woman that's come through the ranks, and, you now hold, a really pivotal position in a business in a scale up business.
Yeah.
I also, knowing you as well as I do, you're not one to blow your own trumpet, but I'm really keen to understand what you think is a differentiator with the way that you do things and what's driven you and helped you get to where you have today as a female in technology. It takes some,
Because I think there's been a number of different things. I've had some people that I'm incredibly grateful for advocating for me and telling me that I was talking myself out of opportunities before I'd even got in the room, and like pointing that out, mirroring that back to me, and really backing me, like Richard, our mutual friend. The amount of times I when I got offered the doctor job, I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this exec role, to be totally honest. And when I called Richard about that, he was like, of course you're ready. What do you mean? And so I think I've been really lucky to be surrounded by people that really believe in me, particularly at points where I've not seen it.
You wouldn't.
And I think that's especially true. Like when I see it sometimes in the team, in teams I've led over the years, where people think like that they need to have every single thing down before going for the next opportunity and putting themselves out there. And so I think that's been like one key thing has been I've invested in coaching over the years, and I've been really lucky to have great mentors and advisors around me. I really liked this concept. I can't remember where I picked it up from, but like having a personal board. So I've got people that I go to speak to about what I'm thinking. And I'm really quite reflective on where I'm holding myself back as well.
That's a big thing, right?
Self-awareness
is huge.
Self-awareness. But now I think over the years I have built, by doing the reps, by just doing the thing, I've built up the self-belief and the confidence that I can do it and that I deserve to be in that room. And I actually see it as a bit of an advantage because I see things differently as well.
So you mentioned about having good people around you. It sounds to me like you're a big advocate for mentoring, having the right sort of, putting yourself on sort of courses at leadership level or relevant to your industry, but leadership, right? But also learning from very, very good people. Our mutual friend that we talk about, Richard, when all that time ago he introduced us, I remember thinking to myself at the time, this is a guy who's obviously, as we both know, is incredibly well decorated. And we both know that he does not give out recommendations lightly. And I remember when he introduced me, and he originally said to me, you need to speak to Brigitte, I'm going to introduce you. First, apart from the fact you'll get on very well, she is absolutely awesome. They were his exact words verbatim. And I thought, okay, she must be good because Richard doesn't give out recommendations lightly. And here we are. So surrounding yourself with those good people, coupled with your natural drive and determination and your passion for your industry, your vertical, your domain, would you say that they're all the it's a good combination and concoction of things that's kind of got you to where you are today?
Yeah, definitely. And I think probably just being all right with failing as well and like learning fast. I think going doing a science degree, very much like it got trained into me that there was like a right or wrong, or like this, there was a right way to do things. And it's really interesting now, because I often, when I have chats with people who are looking to get into product, or maybe are more on the like junior end, so the start of their career, and they're asking me about like, what's the framework for the thing? Like, I'm doing a workshop, what framework or what workshop format do I need to use? And I'm like, well, what are you trying to do? Like, let's pick this apart. But I remember being that person as well, thinking that there was always like a right way to do something. And if I could just read enough books or go on enough courses, and I actually think women in particular fall into this trap, and they are like, oh, well, I need to go build up some more knowledge before I could go for that opportunity.
Right.
And actually, sometimes doing it is the exact right approach. Like right now, everybody's learning about AI, how they apply it and how they build products, how they apply it and how they work. And like, I think I can feel me wanting to like go on a course and learn all about it. But actually, the best thing to do right now is just to play with the different tools, try to solve problems with them, see how you get on, and then ask AI to build you a course or to like do something tailored to you.
Yeah.
But I do think that we can sometimes hold ourselves back by thinking, oh, well, I couldn't possibly go and do that thing until I have all the knowledge. Like, you'll get this as a founder, right? Like you have to just figure shit out.
Yeah.
Like, you have to just work it out as you go.
Yeah.
But I think
who's
that
going to do it for you?
Yeah. But I think sometimes I see people like stopping themselves from taking that next leap, that next opportunity, planning. And I used to fall into that trap, and I'm super conscious of it now, where I like have a internal motto, let's say, of like, no, take action. It's like I have a propensity for taking action now, to then learn from that. Just do it.
Yeah.
Like, as Nike says, just do it. Like, crack on and learn as you go.
Yeah.
And don't wait for somebody else to believe in you. Believe in yourself and go for it.
Like, fantastic.
But I had to really coach that into myself, and other people coached it into me as well. Yeah. Because like, if you're not going to believe in yourself, why will anybody else believe in you? Like,
everything starts with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything starts with you. So it's about that belief, but it's about conviction as well.
Yeah, exactly. And also about being open to learning, like having a growth mindset, like failing fast, learning, and you get that from doing. Right? But I think that also has really been an advantage to me. Like, I've seen how much of a positive impact that's had on my career when I don't wait for permission. That's the other thing. Like, I had a conversation with someone in my team a few weeks ago about permission, and I was like, look, you're the expert in the company in this area. Like, rather than asking permission for everything, why don't you just say what you think we should do?
Initiative.
With conviction.
Yeah.
And just get it done.
Yeah.
And I'll back you. I'll support you.
So you back the whole kind of seek forgiveness.
Well, within yeah.
But
in healthcare, you have to like there's like we have to build safely and effectively. So to an extent.
But you'd rather like someone who was like full of idea. You'd rather someone that was full of ideas and energy and passion for it, because as the phrase goes, you can chuck water on those people, right?
Totally.
Just cool them down a little bit. But you would rather that as someone that's like that and is full of those ideas, rather than trying to drag that energy, positive energy and mindset out of someone.
Yeah. Someone that's just a doer and just gets it done. Yeah. And I really hire for that, particularly in a scale-up, a fast-growing scale-up, because the reality is you're often navigating a lot of ambiguity, and there's often not a playbook. You have to try and work out, okay, like, what's the best thing? What's the next thing that we're going to do? Like, what's the best approach? Like, let's just try. You have to just have that curiosity and the drive to try and figure it out. So I would say that that's like something I've had to teach myself and now try to coach into others as well.
Okay, great. That's really interesting. How do you talk to me about how you think product leadership changes depending on the size of company that you're in?
Yeah, it changes massively. I mean, product changes. Like
Yeah.
the role of everybody on the product team changes depending on like how the product org's set up and how product led a company is, like how the organization operates totally changes the product role.
Yeah.
And so I think like what I do in the interview process, but also when I get into a company, and I also like if I'm interviewing someone to join, I'm really transparent about the way that we operate, the way that our product org works, because I think it's really important because product looks so different across different places. Yeah. But one thing that I'll always do when I go into a company is like a bit of an assessment across like people, product, process, like in each of these areas, how is the organization currently set up? So within product, it's like, is there a product strategy in place? What's the business model? How does company strategy flow into product strategy? In process, it might be things around like how we're executing, how like what ceremonies are in place. Yeah. And in people, it's like in each of the product teams, like how are the people operating? What skill sets do they have? Where are they really strong? Where is the gaps? And basically spend that time almost like in discovery mode, kind of like in product discovery mode.
Perpetually,
yeah. Kind of being like, okay, and that, like, this is where the organization's at. This is what this is what we need. So like when I went into Doctor, the number one thing we needed was a product strategy, a really clear product strategy. Yeah. So spent heaps of time, like not only understanding kind of the domain and everything I needed to understand to work out what the product strategy should be, so like everything around the company strategy, mission stuff. Like it was the most intense but brilliant onboarding that you could imagine. Yeah. But like you craft the strategy, but then I realized, oh right, okay, we need to do some organizational design because your organization is just like a reflection of that strategy, right? Yeah. So it's like we needed to change a bunch of stuff, and that was the big thing for the first 6 months to 12 months was like, okay, this is the job that I need to do. Now, in some companies, you might go in and there might already be like, it depending on like, what stage the company's at, who's been there before, there might already be a solid product strategy. Yeah. It might be a totally different set of problems that you need to change. Yeah. Like you need to go in with an open mind around where am I going to add most value? Yeah. Where do I actually how does product help the company like drive forward on its mission, strategy, vision? Yeah. Like how are we gonna, like how as a product leader do I enable that, and how do I give the right context to the teams for them to enable that as well? Yeah. But I'd say like company stage, the type of company, like what your setup is as well, like who your peers are as well, like right now, how you fit into that totally influences your product job. I had some really good advice a few years back actually around when I was kind of first in leadership roles, when someone said to me like the relationship, the CFO and the CEO will make or break you as a product leader. And I kind of was like, oh, interesting. I would have thought it was like CTO, like, but now I get what he meant. Like I really do. Like not to say like I've got a brilliant relationship with our CTO and that's really important, but actually you need to be strategically aligned and also commercially, financially aligned. Like otherwise your product strategy, like if your product strategy is over here and the company strategy, commercial strategy is over there and they're not, then it's not all coming together then.
But you've got to be conscious of what you're doing is making a difference, but also like the financial implications, the commercial impact on that product, right?
Yeah. Point, exactly. And we run our products like organizations. We could talk about products and investment portfolio. So all of our like bets, if you like, have got business cases per bet, and then our teams are structured on different bets. Like our product teams, then we've got supporting teams, but every single bet, the PMs, the product teams, all understand the commercials and like what impact we need to have for that bet to have paid off, for that to be viable for us as a company to keep investing, because product teams are expensive, right? And like, so what's the ROI? And and like, and how are our different bets contributing to where the company needs to go, like what we need to achieve as a company.
It's not always easy to evaluate that either.
No,
that's the thing.
And then different bets have different ways that we look at that, and we talk about like different stages of product market implementation fit. So if something's like really, really early stage with our sales cycle, like it could take a while before we see meaningful revenue from it.
Yeah.
But later stage products where we're optimizing, we can get a bit clearer on what like revenue target we need to drive. But we treat it as an investment portfolio. We're really clear on how much we're investing in each thing and what the expected ROI is and what the milestones are. And I think that's super important. Like, because I remember when in my first few product roles, there was definitely a period of product where there was so much funding going into tech. And I joke with one of my design friends, because we built a product that I couldn't tell you today what the ROI would be on it. Like, it was so fun to build,
but
and it was
investment?
Like a huge investment, but it looked really nice. Like, it was great, but like I couldn't tell you what, like, it was a nice to have, it wasn't a must have. But at the time there were so many product teams who were all building all of these things, and that might be fine depending on what company size, company stage you're at. But like, it's made me really mindful over the years, like how much having a commercial mindset is really key. And it's something we coach in. It's in our capability frameworks for PMs. Like, it's something we coach into the product teams.
Nice.
So every product team will know their run rate of like how much their team costs per year, and then like what the level of ROI they're going after. And I think it's important to have that type of transparency. And we're a scale up, right? Like, we don't have endless time to like
or money.
And so it's important. Like, we're all here to deliver on our mission to transition healthcare to a hybrid model, and so we have to be mindful of like where we're investing if we're seeing the ROI to help us. Are we getting further to delivering that mission? And I think everyone's like really I think everyone's really embraced that. Actually, it's been really cool to start talking a bit more like, or whatever. Our chief operating officers used to be an investor, so he helped design the product as an investment portfolio, and we run it like investment meetings, and we look at the business cases as an executive team.
Well, in effect, it is, because it is that within your business, right? Okay, that's interesting. And when you think about it, like when you think about that, and that the mindset that you have day to day, how does it then sit with the broad remit, or the remit of your job as you progress, as gets broader and broader?
For sure.
How do you balance that between product, people, politics,
process
and process? Four things: people, products, people, process, politics. I think it's a really difficult balance that I think a lot of product leaders are challenged by. How does that sit with you? How do you manage that?
A lot of it is planning and then adapting the plan as I go. So each day I'll start the day with like, what are the 1 to 2 highest impact, highest leverage things that I can do today, and how am I going to get them done? And I do that on a weekly basis as well. So I'll plan for my week of like, okay, what really is critical to get done this week. And obviously things come up, things adapt, but I keep it really focused, because it's really easy. And I actually struggled with this when I first went into a leadership role, becoming super reactive, reacting to every Slack message, every like request for a meeting.
Is this from the only person that doesn't want to say no and always wants to help it?
for sure. But I realise actually that's not the way that I should be operating to really have an impact. And I can't do my role like that.
Is that because if you did it like that, you're literally running over here to do that, then you run over there to do that, and you all of a sudden you become well known for as a bit of a busy fool, right?
Exactly that. And I mean, there's still a bit of that, right? Like, sometimes you find yourself back being a busy fool, but most days, actually every day, I plan for like, what's the highest impact thing I could do today, and I get that thing done. But the team's my number one priority, making sure that they're enabled, they've got the strategic context that they need to be able to execute is really key. And like working out like, okay, what are the different things? Because my role's really broad, right? I look after our PM team, our design team, our clinical team, and I'm part of the exec team. So that means that like my diary week to week is really varied, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
But that's why the planning's super helpful, because I have to make sure that depending on where we are, like what phase, like what our goals are as a business, I flex how much I'm spending on each of those times. Right now, I'm spending heaps of time on design because we're doing some work to like redesign our design process. Like, okay, let's leverage the latest like AI tools and change how we do some of these things. Let's experiment.
Is that just natural evolution as well? Is that as a result of the evolution of the product?
Yeah, and also just like looking at like the tools that are now available. Like our engineers are now using Claude Code. We're experimenting with spec-driven development. We're looking at like loads more of the organizations now prototyping. That's not isolated to design. Like there's a lot of changes in the ways that we're working. So that's like one of my biggest focuses at the moment is actually getting hands-on with the team, like trying these tools myself, working through problems with the team, and helping them to experiment and to redesign the way that we work. And that has to be my number one priority at the minute. And then I'm trying to work out, okay, how do I put in all the other bits? And the other big thing that was my priority a few weeks ago was strategy. How's our strategy evolved? The latest development of AI, like what's that mean for our product strategy? Spending heaps of time with our CEO, our CTO, thinking through strategy. That became my focus for a few weeks. And now I'm looking at ways of working to actually now execute on that strategy. So I'd say I kind of flex my focus. Yeah. But I'm mindful of like when I've had my foot off the gas on one area, like making sure I go back to that at some point as well. That's why planning, like
really
taking
easy
a step
to do
back.
That,
I'm
not going to sit here and say that, you know, I have everything covered and everything's rhythmical and really structured, because we've got the intent for it to try and be with the teams that Ricky and I've run over the years. But, you know, it gets to scale and you have to adapt the way that you work. Totally. But at the same time, there are things that day to day where it's a bit ad hoc and then you have to suddenly change something or something becomes a priority, or you know, there's not like a complete, you know, one size fits all element to this. And it's interesting to hear how you talk about that, because it's obviously it is very involved, isn't it? It's so involved, but it sounds like, you know, there's day to day, and also you're in a fast paced sort of scale up business that and things are moving at pace because they have to. So, and if you don't, you get left behind.
Totally. Totally.
On that note, I you know, obviously I know you've just, other people won't, but you've just had a very exciting and very successful trip out to India. And it looked amazing, by the way. And I know that we've obviously spoken sort of off air, and you said it was absolutely fantastic. Talk to us about some of the challenges that you find building teams internationally, because that's a big factor in your role now. And getting the right people, and obviously people listening to this will be thinking about, you know, how they work with offshore teams. Some businesses don't do that, but a lot of businesses are. It might even be becoming a bit more of a factor now with the, you know, the economy being the way it has. And, you know, I know quite a few companies that have decided to offshore, and they're really kind of reaping the benefits in lots of different ways. Tell us about some of the experiences and some of the challenges that you've had doing that, you know, particularly recently.
Yeah, absolutely. So we set up an office in India, in a place called Pondicherry, which is southern India. And it's been such good learning, honestly. So we very intentionally set up a doctor office. And so I'd say like one of the challenges is making sure that team really feels part of doctor when the majority of our team is in the UK. So part of the visit was actually to go build up personal relationships there with, it's mainly engineering that we've hired, but we've also hired people in marketing and our support teams and project management. And it's been fantastic to spend time with the team there. I think one of the biggest challenges has been the time difference and like changing some of our like ceremonies. Making sure that there's enough overlap. I think one thing that we did was like blended teams, and then we've tried sub teams. And actually what I found is having teams own outcomes or projects in like the different locations and then all coming together, so like having sub teams within a domain and all coming together, but having ownership, so the team in India can execute autonomously from like they're not waiting for the team in the UK to make decisions, because one of the things that is really important as a scale up is you have to make good decisions fast. Like a company, what our head of design Russell always talks about, like a company survives or fails based on its like speed at making decisions. And I think what we initially had with the Indian team, the UK team, was too much coordination, overhead, and we had like a very Aishu, who leads our team in India, has done an amazing job of like inducting the Indian team into like everything doctor, our company strategy, product strategy, policy, but policies, everything like that. But we hadn't spent enough time walking through, asking questions, doing that. So there was a lot of back and forth, a lot of coordination. And what became really apparent to me is like the team in India didn't have all the strategic context that they needed to then, as a sub team, own something and just crack on basically. So we've learned a lot about that, and also setting up the teams like culturally, like for success, and really embracing cultural differences, and like actually like there has been like different barriers with communication, but the team has been brilliant at like working out how to do that from like both sides as well. So it's been a real learning experience. I've never set up an office in India before, and so it's been a real brilliant opportunity to work out how to do that well.
Brilliant. That's really interesting. And do you feel that a key part of that, a sort of takeaway from that is that it's, despite the geography, it could be, they could be in Europe or they could be in India or, Manila or wherever it may be. Do you feel that like the key to that is that kind of whole, part being part belonging, being part of something,
for sure.
Inclusion? Because a client of ours at the moment is they're setting up a big engineering function in Lisbon. Obviously, it's the same time zone, right? But it is a couple of hours away on a plane. And one of the things that they're really making sure of is like being out there a lot, being very present. Because obviously, I think that the whole kind of dynamic changes as well when you're actually. You've made the time and taken the time and the conscious effort to go and meet someone in person and be with them, because I don't think there's any doubt that has a really positive impact on the way that you influence people.
For sure.
I massively believe
it's
that.
Such a part of leadership is having that time in person, building up 100%. The relationships. And like it helps to build the trust and the psychological safety as well. I think if you don't invest that time, you really, really pay for it. I'm a big believer in hybrid working, but you do have to have enough face-to-face time. I genuinely think you need to spend time together in an office, around a whiteboard, going out to do things as a team, like going out for dinner, whatever it might be. You need to invest in those activities to be able to get the team feeling like a team. Having scaled the teams that Ricky and I have over the years, and obviously now doing it for ourselves now, it's something that I'm really passionate about. But also that whole kind of trust element, empowering people, giving people autonomy, I think is a huge thing. And also you see the people that want to embrace that. Totally.
But when you're abroad, when you've got teams offshore and you go somewhere like that, I think that belonging is really important. And this particular client at the moment, they're saying that, they want to make sure that, they're there because they can assess the skills of the people they know that can do that and can grow and really run with it and grab it and embrace it, right?
So I think it's important to empower the leadership also in the office in India for us, to be able to do that themselves and to make sure that there's the right connections between the leadership in the UK and the leadership in India working together to create like a really high performing team, but understanding that the way that we do that might differ based on geography as well. So there might be cultural differences, and accepting that, learning from that is really important.
Okay, great. An interesting question as well. Do you think that is even more important when you have the distance, geographical distance that you have, which obviously then dictates time difference and time zones?
Yeah.
Do you think that's even more important? Because obviously there's crossovers where I think India are 6 or 7 hours ahead, right?
Yeah.
So, there's times when obviously there's decisions being made when, the UK and et cetera is not online. Is it even more important that autonomy really kind of shines through, because there's times when decisions are going to be made and you don't want to have too much of a lag, because that just, time is money, right? So is that a big factor as well?
Totally. I think it's about being really clear on what decisions we're making and when and how. And I actually think being really clear, it's funny because it's not just about like different teams in different geographies. At the minute, we're thinking a lot about decision making in terms of like actually how we build product using AI, like who makes the final calls on certain things. So we're actually doing a lot to define how we make good decisions and what the different levels of decisions are. Because you're right, like something that, like, say, I don't know, we've got a bug that needs fixing. We just need a decision to fix the bug and like get that shipped, stop that affecting. Big strategy decision. You want everybody in alignment around that, right? Yeah. Like you don't want to be making that off the cuff. No. So like we're thinking about different types of decisions and how we make them a lot at the minute. Not just because we've set up a new office in India, but just in general, like how we do that well in an AI, like when we have AI native product teams, because we've got the roles between PM, designer, engineer increasingly blurring. So like the previous Venn diagram of who did what doesn't really work anymore. Like we're seeing blurred boundaries. And so I actually this morning spent time with our designers talking about like prototyping and where like how we actually like get our design system in a place where engineers can really fast change things in the code base within our design system. Like there's lots of stuff that we're exploring around decision making and who does what at the minute.
Okay, interesting. We can't get through this podcast right without you mentioned it just now, and we've touched on it a few times, but I think in the world we live in and the way that things are and our technology space is evolving, it is probably be remiss of us not to talk about AI. Just in general, but probably more specifically like how you see it impacting, and that's not positive or negative, like your business, your industry, and just overall like the effect of it and how you guys are using it. So I'm really keen, I'm sure everyone else would, to sort of hear your perspective on that, because one of the things that really made me laugh when we got together for a coffee and you said I said, how's things, and we were talking about as we always do, various different bits and pieces, and you said it's really interesting because at the time, I think this was a couple of years ago, you said, we have like agendas in board meetings and we sort of go through, X, Y, and Z and lots of stuff that we get to cover. And the final point was, and it was just AI, but there was nothing specific and detailed around it, but it was there because everyone just thought as a board and leadership team that it should be something you talk about. I guess it's probably moved on a bit from that.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm just really, but I'm just really keen to understand, your perspective on AI overall and within your business.
Yeah, I guess with AI, big buzzword at the minute, but for good reason, actually. I think when we probably were talking about AI a couple of years ago, I was probably thinking, it's in healthcare a lot of the time, it's like machine learning. I didn't think it would like transform the way that we're working, to the extent that it is right now. Yeah. But now I'm like really optimistic, slightly terrified, but really optimistic around.
But wouldn't be without it.
Yeah.
As in how did we cope with it?
Yeah, exactly. And personally and professionally, like I've built systems for my personal life that like automate away loads of the stuff that I don't like doing, and I've been having so much fun doing that. And actually understanding the latest tools, often I'll try and use a personal use case to build up my confidence before thinking about applying it within say in the health tech space, because even when I go there I'm like, oh god, well how do we manage like how do we do this in practice? So in terms of like AI and what I'm thinking about at the minute, a lot of the time right now, it's really, as a leader, about giving the teams the space to experiment. They know their domains and the problems that they need to solve better than anyone.
Yeah.
And it's about giving them the space to learn the tools and experiment with the tools. And that's what we've been doing. So we've been calling it like slow down, speed up. Like we've just been giving teams cover and space to experiment, and it's been so exciting to see. So we've got various Slack channels that are like kind of guilds where people are sharing the latest things that they've been building or what they've used AI for, and it's like sharing the wins, but it's not just the wins, it's also the learnings. Like we're still learning how to make sure AI's got all the right context that it needs to be really effective, how to basically set ourselves up in the way I was talking about earlier about like design systems, how to do that in like we're experimenting with, like, people are reading blog posts or listening to podcasts, coming in with ideas and then just trying things.
Right.
And I'm loving that, like, learning culture that we're cultivating. Like, I think I remember reading a book I think about Microsoft, where they talked about shifting Microsoft from a know-it-all to a learn-it-all culture, and that was a big part of like Microsoft becoming super successful.
What it is
again.
Yeah.
And I just love that. And I love being in the environment. I sat next to one of our engineers the other day and I was doing something in terminal with Claude Code and kept getting so stuck. And I just got some tips from him. And he was like, oh, just have you tried this? And then I was showing him some of my use cases, and I was showing him like what I was doing to like automate some stuff from like documentation. Like, I do a lot of, as you know, I'm quite chatty. So I do a lot of like speech to text transcript. Like if I'm like need to do an exec paper or write up, like I'm dyslexic, so writing long papers is not my bag.
So this is like a godsend.
AI has been transformative for me, because what I can do is I can chat. I use Super Whisper, I chat in Super Whisper, download my brain. I don't have to think about it being structured, articulate.
Pulls it all together.
I just am like, these are all the things I'm thinking about, and like I then like basically build up a bank of different voice notes on a topic, and then I chuck it all into Claude and say, give it some instructions, say like create this into like create whatever I need to create, usually like a paper or something, like a deck maybe. But like we've kind of trained Claude, like Robbie, our head of marketing, kind of trained Claude so it's got our brand guidelines, tone of voice and stuff, so we can spin up decks or a paper like really fast in a way that doesn't drain my energy. That type of stuff used to drain me.
It just gives you so much time back.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And obviously it gets you 80% there. Like, I think the thing to be really clear about, like, so I see this with like the proliferation of like products that look really nearly there, but actually the key thing, it's like the product, the document that's been spit out with AI, you need to refine it often. You need to give Claude or whatever AI tool feedback on what worked, what didn't. So it's learning, it's getting better. I've been doing that over the last few months, and just see how much more powerful it gets, like how nailed it's got my tone of voice now, and the way that I write it blows my mind. It really does blow my mind. And it makes me so much more effective and efficient. You were talking earlier about like, how do I split my time across all of these different things? I've like built systems to help me do that as well, like where I'm automating away the lower value. So we've got like the MCP integrations with Slack and Notion, and like stuff that would have, because particularly being dyslexic, stuff like replying to a Slack message or like doing that really, really fast. I can now do with a few bullets, and because Claude's got my tone of voice down, it's like, it's so good. It's transforming the way that we work, but I don't quite know what will sustain just yet. Like, we're experimenting a lot, we're learning a lot, and we've taken calls on different things. So there's some things that we're like quite bullish on, and we're like, right, okay, we're going to commit to doing things differently. But there's some things where we're like, we've got no idea. Like we tried to do just spec driven development for one area of the product, and we've gone back to doing it the old way, right? Like there's certain areas where it's really working well, where it's more greenfield. It's certain areas where like small optimizations, lots of excitement around that in the teams at the minute. But then there's like other areas where we found it really, really hard. And
I've heard that quite a bit.
We've spent like we think we're like, it makes you feel like you've got loads of momentum, and then you hit a wall, and that last 20%, 10%, whatever it is actually really hard. And it's actually like the amount of time you spent doing that. Like it's like, did it actually overall help? Like, so a lot of the time I'm trying to think about it in this systematic way of like, okay, as a product org, what can we put in place to make everybody, like make this easier for everybody. But it's been really cool to see the teams also getting super energized. Like obviously at first we were all a bit like, gosh, what does this mean for us? And as individuals, you're like, what does this mean for my job? Like I'm like, as product leader, and I could look at those my product leadership books or product books and be like, a lot of that stuff's not that relevant anymore. Might as well chuck them out type thing. But that for me, personality wise, like in my personality type, I mean, I quite like that. It's that, like, you know, we're redesigning how we work, how exciting. But also it's important to acknowledge that not everyone's going to feel that way. And it's like leading people through that change.
I think that's really important.
And being mindful of the human element of it and how it's so understandable to be like, what does this mean for me as an individual? And like people have mastered crafts for years, and then like they'll read loads of blogs where it's like AI will just do all the coding or all the designing, and I don't believe that at all.
I don't think a lot of people do.
But there was so much hype towards the start of the year.
A year or two ago, they didn't know as much as we know now. But I think most people probably agree as well. Anyone watching this would be like, you know, you said it earlier that, you know, AI just blows your mind. I mean, there's not a day goes by where I hear something or someone shows me something and, you know, sort of demonstrates something or runs through something where I'm like, that's just nuts. Like it's just nuts. How it's like I had this mindset of like, you know, what's someone going to show me next? When you think someone's showing you something and it just, you're like, huh? You just mind absolutely frazzled, and then the next day someone's, you know, shows you something that's just topped it. So and you know, there's so much clever stuff with it, you know, as you say, like training it and, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I'm embracing it, and I'm, you know, I want to educate myself every day. But I hear all these things, so it's really interesting to get your take on it, particularly in that sort of health tech sort of space as well. I think, look, you know, in this sort of, in order to, you know, we're kind of at the stage where we're sort of going to wrap it up, unfortunately, but time's just flown by. But some of the takeaways that I've got from this, from you, is I think one of the big things is or a few of the big things are have conviction and belief in yourself. And one of the things that you said, which really resonated with me, and I hope it does with people listening to this, is when you're looking at opportunities, not maybe just sort of looking at a new role within a different company, looking to move, or within the company that you're in, you know, really understand and evaluate what impact you can have on in that role. And that comes as part of believing in yourself and having that conviction, but also really understanding and actually being at peace within yourself about what impact you can genuinely make. That's a big thing.
People can get so obsessive with the process, you know, like a competency framework or like a JD, and like think that like if you tick all those boxes, that'll equal like progression. And I always say to people, focus on having an impact and the rest will figure itself out. Because you're going to get the promotion or you'll get the springboard into a brilliant new role if you have an impact and you can evidence that impact. So if you focus yourself on having the biggest impact that you can have, everybody wins. The company you're working for wins, but you win. And that's how you progress your career. Like people can really pour over like a competency framework. And I'm like, it's important, but it's a tool for you to use to work out how to have an impact. Rather than the actual thing you need to tick all the boxes from. It's something that I think people can get lost in. But actually, if you have conviction, you go at you're self-aware and you know what you're good at, and you work out how to like basically do what you're good at to have an impact, like you're onto a winner.
100%. And with all that in mind, right, just to wrap this up, kind of final word from you. What would you say to people watching this who are aspiring to be product leaders? You're in a brilliant position where you can comment on that. I would love to hear, and I'm sure other people would, your advice. What advice would you give people looking to, work their way, progress their way up? There might be a product manager now. They've got those aspirations and those, they're really driven people. What advice would you give them as a sort of final kind of parting comment?
Be clear on why. Be really clear on why you want to go into product leadership and what type of role you want, like what type of organization, like what is it about product leadership that is so exciting for you? Having that clarity helps you choose not only the type of environment that you'll go into to be a product leader, but it also it helps you get really clear on what you need to get good at, like what skills you need to develop. Because as a product leader, you can go really, really broad and get good at lots of different areas, or you can pick your USP, what do I stand for as a product leader? Where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? Where do I need to develop for this next next stage? So for example, when I took this executive role, one of my biggest gaps was the financial side of things, or at least that was my perceived gap. It actually turned out classically that I knew more about it than I thought I did. But I was okay, right, I'm gonna go and chat to some CFOs and work out what type of thing a really stellar CPO, director of product, what do they know? What are they really good at? What makes them stellar? And then that becomes my learning and development plan for my next leap. It's okay, what type of leader do I need to, what type of leader do I want to be? What types of skills might I develop, to get me there? Where are my gaps? And where are the gaps that are just absolutely fine? I remember once looking at data science. That's not my bag. So I learned just how to be good enough at data science to get to the next level.
Competent understanding.
Yeah. I can understand it, but I'm not an expert in data science. I'm not an expert in detailed data analysis. It's not my bag. But actually identifying the things where you're okay, that's not my bag. I'll be good enough at that, and this is the stuff that I really need to excel at, and these are the gaps. Speak to people. Honestly, people are so willing to help. I've been overwhelmed with the generosity that people have shown me over the years around speaking to people in CPO roles and being okay, I want to be leading product at an organization, similar stage to you, similar type of role. What's your role actually look like? And then I'm okay, that's what I want to do. So here's where I am now. What's the gap? What would you advise? You do that and your own research, and that gives you your roadmap.
Okay, brilliant. I think that is absolutely fantastic advice. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure as always. Love spending time with you.
It's been great to chat.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.